Let's meet a doctor spearheading incredible initiatives. I'm Kate Save. The Inspired CEO starts now. Welcome to The Inspired CEO, where each episode we explore the innovative wellness practices that are driving success and longevity in the modern business world. In this episode, I sit down with Dr. Peter Brukner, medical doctor, founder and chairman of Sugar by Half and Defeat Diabetes, to discuss his varied and inspiring journey. So thank you for joining me today, Peter.
Pleasure, Kate.
Now, you've got a very long history in exercise medicine or sports medicine, so tell me how this started.
Well, I guess as a kid I was always a sports nut, and I was always watching sport or playing sport or reading about sport, and I wanted to actually be a sports commentator, but my mother thought that wasn't a very appropriate profession for her little darling, and so I finished up doing medicine, and but then after I graduated I sort of gravitated into sports medicine, which was just sort of starting around that time, and so I was really involved right at the start of the sports medicine journey, if you like. Yeah.
And you founded the Sports Medicine Centre, is that correct?
Yeah, I started a sports medicine clinic called Olympic Park Sports Medicine Centre here in Melbourne, and that's the largest multidisciplinary sort of centre in the country, and also got very involved in establishing the sports medicine as a profession, and yes. We actually formed a college, and over a period of about 20 years we developed the profession to the point where it became a fully fledged medical specialty. It was the first new college to be a medical specialty. So yeah, that was a fascinating journey, and kept me pretty busy for 20 odd years.
And what do you think are the most memorable parts of that journey? What are those moments that you go, this is when it all changed?
Well, it's funny because when we started this process to become a specialty, they said, oh, it'll take 15 years, and we said, oh, no, you haven't seen us in action, Sure enough, 15 years later, we became a specialty.
Gosh.
And it was a massive journey, and we had a lot of sort of roadblocks along the way. They abolished the whole process halfway through. I remember sitting outside, ministers' offices in Parliament House and lobbying people and lobbying other colleges. So to finally get that through, that was a great moment, that I was very proud of and felt really good about. So that was probably the crowning, achievement really from that point of view. We also wrote a textbook called Clinical Sports Medicine, which we just started off as a little sort of manual, and is now now at its 6th edition, and finished up being the main textbook used around the world for sports medicine. So that's been lovely seeing that sort of grow and develop, and get a whole lot of people involved in that process, and then managed to get involved with a number of sporting teams over the years, and from AFL teams to national sporting teams, swimming, hockey, athletics, soccer, cricket. Did a couple of Olympics, the World Cup soccer. Did a stint over in England at Liverpool Football Club in the Premier League, and then did a few years with the Australian cricket team, touring around with them. So yeah, it's been fun, and I've been lucky. I've managed to combine my passion, I guess, and my profession, which I guess not many people are able to do. So I've been very fortunate. And
that ability to travel as well and live in another country and work, that would be an experience.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times, I think it's a great experience for anyone. My kids are all doing it now. They're off in other countries working and so on. I think it's just a really great life experience, and you sort of take yourself out of your comfort zone. I mean, when Liverpool approached me, I was fine here. I had a great job, and had plenty to do, but I thought, well, here's a challenge to take myself out of my comfort zone a little bit, and go over to another country and another culture, and see if I can make a difference there. So yeah, it was exciting.
I'm very curious, with starting this specialist team and multidisciplinary team, who were the first different types of modalities that you
we started with obviously with doctors. Yes. Physiotherapy has always been a really key part of the clinic. Yes. We've also had massage therapists. I've had dietitians, psychologists, exercise physiologists, different types of doctors. So we've had surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, pain medicine specialists. Yeah, so it's a great team, and sports medicine really is the ultimate multidisciplinary. A lot of medical sort of areas, profess to be multidisciplinary, but it's really a sort of the doctor up here and everyone else is sort of, down there somewhere, But sports medicine, really, we work as a team. We work with teams,
yes,
and we work as a team within a team, if you like. And so we work very closely with physiotherapists and massage therapists and so on. And every sporting team or club I've been involved with has been the same. You have this sort of team within the team, from whether the fitness guys or my team at Liverpool. I probably had about 25 staff looking after 25 highly paid, pampered athletes.
Yes.
But you'd have a bunch of physios and massage therapists and fitness staff and so on. So yeah, it's always part of the role was obviously coordinating that and leadership of that team.
Now, you took a very brave step a while ago and really pivoted your career journey, and you started Sugar by Half and Defeat Diabetes. Stepping away from the, traditional sports medicine into perhaps metabolic medicine or whatever you might call it. Tell us, why did you do that?
Well,
and
yeah, if you'd asked me, 12 years ago, if I'd be, sitting here talking about diabetes or something, I'd have laughed. But like many things, you have your own experience. And 12 years ago, 12 years ago now, I was in Liverpool, working at the football club there. And if you'd asked me then, was I healthy, I'd have probably said, I'm fine. I'm fine. I exercise regularly. I ate what I thought was a good diet. My blood sugar was fine. Everything was good. The reality was I probably wasn't quite as good as I thought I was. Okay. For a start, I had a family history of type 2 diabetes. My father developed type 2 diabetes at the age I was at then, and I didn't want to go down that path. I was quite overweight, many middle-aged men. I'd probably, considered 60 middle-aged. I used to think it was old, but now I think it's middle-aged. I used to, I'd probably put on 0.5 kilogram a year for 30 years. Okay. Just slowly getting thicker around the waist, and my kids are starting to sort of poke me in the guts and say, come on, Dad. And
so we're only talking 15 kilos over 30 years. So it's not a huge amount of weight.
It's gradual, but it was quite good. If you're 15 kilograms overweight, that's not great. And I was borderline obese on the sort of scale and so on. Yes. So I was overweight. I also had some blood abnormalities. I'd had a thing called a fatty liver for the previous 10 years. I didn't really understand what a fatty liver was, and I figured I was on a low-fat diet. So like most doctors, I ignored it. And I had high triglycerides, high insulin levels, and so on. So I was metabolically unwell, and in retrospect, I was clearly pre-diabetic, but I didn't understand it at the time.
And it wasn't talked about a lot 12 years ago.
No. Yeah. And then, so then I sort of a colleague of mine, Tim Noakes in Cape Town in South Africa, who's a super smart guy, and he sort of came out and said that he thought the whole diet thing was wrong, that we were actually that carbohydrates were the problems, not fat. And he'd actually adopted that diet and reversed his type 2 diabetes.
Right.
And when I saw that, I thought, Tim, come on, don't be ridiculous. We can't, we've all been on this, we all know low fat's the best way to go. So, but I thought, no, I need to look into this. So I read a book initially, which by Gary Taubes, called Good Calories, Bad Calories. And that book was fascinating in that it talked not just, carbohydrates versus fat, but explained the politics of how the low-fat movement had won out over the low-carb movement, the low-sugar movement, back in the sort of 60s and 70s, which I'd always assumed was due to, research and science. But turns out to be due to money and politics and power.
And a lot of people would have heard about this Ansel Keys study, or the 7-country study that was actually 20 countries.
22 countries,
22 countries.
Yeah, it's quite fraudulent. And once you start reading that, you think, oh boy, it just challenges your beliefs. And I remember, sitting on the edge of my bed in Liverpool, I had a lovely apartment overlooking the river, looking out over the Mersey, thinking, this couldn't be. This couldn't be. We couldn't have been on the whole Western society had been on a diet, low-fat diet for 30, 40 years. And here, there was more and more evidence that I was reading that it was wrong. I found it quite confronting, really, and also having to admit that everything I've been telling people, and also I've been telling people, advising people, especially athletes, lots of carbs. So that was very challenging. So the more I read, the more I thought, I think there's something in this. So I thought, well, I need to do a little experiment. And even though, experiments with an n=1 are a waste of time, except when the one is you. So I decided it was going to be an n=1 experiment on myself. So I went low carb for 3 months.
Yes.
So stopped eating, all the sugary foods and starchy foods. So no rice, pasta, potatoes, cereal, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Went back to eating probably the way that my grandparents would have eaten.
Absolutely.
Just real food, meat, fish, eggs, all that cholesterol, and dairy, all that saturated fat, butter, all that, stuff, non-starchy vegetables, and the only fruit I ate was berries.
Yes.
So I did that for 3 months.
You lost 13 kilos, I heard.
I lost 13 kilograms in 13 weeks. Yeah,
yes.
It was very symmetrical. And
took you nearly 30 years to put on 15 kilos, and you got 13 kilos.
Lost 13 in 13 weeks.
Amazing.
And felt fantastic.
Yes.
And then did my bloods at the end, and every one of my metabolic abnormalities had come back to normal. I'd had a fatty liver for 10 years at least, back to normal. And my triglycerides back to normal. So, and I felt fantastic. I had more energy, my exercise improved, my sleep improved, my brain fogginess, my afternoon sort of sleepiness improved. So, so if you have that experience, I guess you've got, one of two choices. You can either just say, okay, I'm all right, mate, and shut up about it, and off we go. Or you can sort of become a bit of an advocate for that type of lifestyle. And to be honest, I didn't have much of a choice. People would come up to me and say, God, what have you done? You look great, and so on. So I became a bit of an advocate for that and started talking about it and writing about it and meeting up with fellow, like-minded low-carbers, as we call ourselves. Yes. And I decided, well, we need to do something about it. And so we started a charity called Sugar by Half, as its name implies, to try and reduce the amount of added sugar by half. I mean, the average Australian probably has about 20 teaspoons of added sugar a day. Wow. And the World Health Organisation recommends, ideally no more than 6. So we figured getting it down by half was a good start. And so we've got a lot of school programs, a lot of videos and lessons for schools from that program. And then I got approached to write a book by Penguin, and I said, look, the last thing the world needs is another bloody diet book. But they said, there's not many by doctors and not many by Australian doctors. So I got talked into writing a book called A Fat Lot of Good. Yes. And that finished up on the bestseller list for 3 months, and it sold really well. But then the elephant in the room's always been type 2 diabetes, and I just think it's underplayed. There's an epidemic of type 2 diabetes. There's 2 million Australians with type 2 diabetes, and it's the most common cause of blindness, the most common cause of amputations, the most common cause of kidney disease, heart disease, Alzheimer's. We focus on those diseases, but we don't focus on the main cause of them, which is type 2 diabetes. Yes. And there were programs overseas that showed very clearly that a low-carb eating approach managed to put their diabetes into remission. I kept waiting for someone to do it in Australia, and eventually thought, oh well,
that's it.
Here we go. We'll do it.
It's an online program, so people can sign up. They go to defeatdiabetes.com.au.
Yes, it's like either an app or a web-based program, and they get a 14-day trial. And it basically gives them all their background information as to what type 2 diabetes is all about, but also the practical information of how to reverse their type 2 diabetes, and what to eat and what to eat when you go out, what fast foods, and it also has bits on exercise and stress, and tons of recipes, meal plans, all that sort of stuff. And we've had a fabulous response. We've had over 10,000 people do that program. More than half of them have put their diabetes levels below the threshold level for diabetes. So it's pretty exciting.
Remarkable. So thank you so much for sharing that, and so brave of you to completely pivot from sugar to no sugar and changing the lives of Australians. So this is Ticker, and we will be right back.
You're watching Ticker. We'll have more in just a few minutes.